And an open earth, simply put, is a vision for global collaboration. It's a vision for how we can all come together on this planet, unite in our strengths, and figure out the solutions we need to, or receive the solutions and bring them into form together, to live out the unfoldment of a paradise on earth. So, we ready to jump in? The open earth is a global vision, and it extends ideas that we've already seen in society, that are already establishing themselves in the last few decades, such as open source in software, open access in science and research, even things like open data and open government initiatives. And it takes this idea of openness and thinks, how do we extend that same philosophy across not just one sector of creation, but across the whole range of what we can create as humans? What if openness was the baseline, and from that place all solutions were created? So the open earth allows people from all walks of life who simply believe that by being open, we can come together and create the solutions. Fundamentally, it's a shift from a scarcity mindset of my stuff, your stuff, we're surviving independently to try and take up our portion of the pie and feel safe, which is a paradigm we're coming from, into a paradigm of abundance, where it's the value I create, the value you create is more value for all of us. We can thrive by combining our strengths, our uniquenesses, if we know how to do that. And this vision allows us to unite and feel empowered to unfold a global transformation. So if we think about openness, what does it actually mean, right? Why is something called like an open source project? What does it mean to say, okay, let's talk openly, let's put all cards on the table? So fundamentally, it's about transparency in what we know and information and why we're thinking what we're thinking. It's about being vulnerable, right? And from that place of vulnerability, we can leverage the collective intelligence, see all cards on the table, and collaborate to create solutions. When we're open, we integrate all perspectives and listen to all perspectives. And from that, a higher truth gets discovered. So the open philosophy has 5 main principles, which are expressed fully in the Open Earth Manifesto. And these principles are what unites all the people to say, okay, these are the values based on which we're creating, then I agree to create. So, transparency, we all know what that means. Showing the cards on the table. Collaboration, let's see all the cards that everyone has and see what game we can create, what outcomes we can create with all the pieces. Inclusivity, everyone's cards are welcome, even if someone's cards are dirty or old or however the cards look, whatever color, whatever form they take, whoever's introducing them, let's look honestly, as long as we're open about it and no one's trying to tell anyone from a place of closeness and absolutism. If we're open, everything's welcome. Innovation. If we position this card with this card with this card, what does that create? That's what innovation's about. Bringing together different pieces, bringing together new pieces that are built on previously created pieces and creating something new. And a shared direction. So if everyone's at the table and doing all of these things with all their cards, but then one person goes over there to play one card game, one goes over there, one goes, well, that's okay, but in the end, we've not created the best of what we can from all of the cards. So a shared sense of direction is saying, even if everyone goes and creates their own smaller parts of the equation, if we're all facing the same way, if we all have the same objective of what we're going to ultimately try and create with these cards on the table, then we can actually create an open earth. And this is actually one of the pieces that unifies everything. Unifies all separate, unified and collaborative projects around the world. What do I mean? There are a lot of groups around the world also that are already unified in themselves and wanting to do the right thing, but siloed in relation to each other. And if we can simply agree on a base direction and value set that's quite broad, but as I said, captures that important thread of where we're going, then it's enough for all the subcultures to develop their own unique expression of what that can look like for them. And some will go all the way down the spiritual route and create a 5D ascension light city grid, and that's amazing. I'm also into that. And some will be totally practical and create some unique framework for sharing scientific knowledge. And that's also great. And they both complement each other when we know that we're going in the same direction, when we know what it's all for. So the vision of an open earth is a globally interconnected ecosystem where transparency, collaboration, inclusivity, and innovation drive sustainable progress, fostering a thriving planet for all life forms. Who here would get behind that? Right? It's pretty obvious, right? And that's the point, is it needs to be obvious. So let's take a look at some of the ways in which an open earth could manifest in different parts of society, in different aspects of human life. One area is open knowledge. There's no reason why knowledge should ever be locked up, right? At least not the knowledge to get us to a level of thriving. One could argue that the very high knowledges that are dangerous if untaught how to use them, require the right rites of passage. That's understandable. But the basic knowledge of how to live a flourishing life, and within oneself, within our communities, within our businesses, that should be open. And anyone who realizes what that would create, I think, will agree. It's about having equitable educational opportunities. It's about sharing our innovations. When one scientific group discovers something that can benefit the world, it becomes an open system that others all around the world can use, can tap into, and can manifest as well, and build upon, and contribute again to the open knowledge commons. And then the next person who's doing it is 3 steps further. This is the power of open knowledge, and this is what things like the open access movement in science has allowed, where scientific research is now commonly openly shared to the public and openly disclosed, and papers are more and more becoming available because we understand that that's not something you should have to pay for or that is only for a few. It should be open, that we can build upon and progress. And when there's open knowledge and everyone is empowered to learn, then we can truly build upon previous knowledge and grow at much faster rates as a human civilization than when there's not open knowledge. The next thing we can think about is open communities. So what would it be like to live in a community setting where the governance and the people who are taking decisions on behalf of the whole community are truly doing it in the highest interest of all those who are part of it, where decisions are documented transparently with the open earth values, as we mentioned, and where people that are part of those communities can participate and share what they think would be good, and where voices can be heard, where we can ask the children what would be good for the community, the elders, all people, and even the quietest voices have a place that can be heard to create an open and interconnected community. I think it's hard for a lot of people to imagine this because we're so used to governance and the people in power having ulterior motives and what's in the highest interest of everyone. But what would it be like if the baseline was, this is our community, this is our collective field, this is open, and this is a space that's growing all together. And from that baseline, we were able to unfold the next steps of evolution, to participate as a community towards nourishing the open commons, towards nourishing the global co-creation, towards advancing towards a thriving planet. Open organizations. There's no reason, apart from when immersed into a scarcity-based system, that a company should need to lock up their discoveries. The only reason that happens is because then it gives them a competitive advantage amongst another company, which gives them more profit for their shareholders. And that's not a judgment, it's an observation of a system that is designed for that purpose. When we realize that an organization can serve a fundamental purpose in this common direction of an open earth, then the way we run organizations shifts and becomes about being really specific about manifesting one unique creation for the purpose of bringing it and sharing it to the world so that everyone can benefit from it. So there are actually models that have been created in the last 15, 20 years, such as open innovation, that have tried to bring this to the corporate world and that show that even opening up your ideas that never made it to product stage, that are still kept in the secret files of your company, which is probably more than 90% of all things never make it to the stage of being shared with the world. And then someone else has to reinvent it from scratch to try and bring that value to the world. That's how that system works. When you have an open organization, those things you're not bringing to the world, it's like, all right, who wants to come and do those things? This is what we've documented, this is how far we got. And if you have the right infrastructure, which now with software we have available is possible, you can even track who participated to the creation of that idea from the beginning and even reward people who even weren't bringing it to the end. So it can actually become something that's even profitable for an organization to open up and share their innovations. So open organizations, they are adaptable and they're all designing towards creating global thriving. And when we know that another organization is on that same mission, then we work together, of course. See, how can I help you? How can you help me? How can we get there faster? And one day this will lead us fully to global openness, where there's transparent governance on various levels of the world stage, where internationally we come together and collaborate to solve global challenges. And personally, I'm not vouching on the governmental and the public sector to go ahead and pioneer this change. I'm very open that that could suddenly happen, but it's not my first intuition. But all of the organizations, all of the awakening beings, which some are in politics, some are in organizations, some are in communities, are all over the world. And that's the people that are uniting to create global openness. And because this philosophy transcends all borders, it reconciles the fact that even the powers may not agree yet. And it creates such a strong force of collaboration that it becomes an inevitable thing that everyone has to start looking at. That once we create an openness, there isn't any competing with it. As hard as a private, closed organization or government would try to do things the closed way, if that global openness is widespread enough and we have connected the dots of all those who are already wanting to do that and all those coming online to do that, then it's unstoppable. And it will create ripple effects in all of society. So this is about how we come together and intentionally collaborate to solve global challenges. This is about uniting towards one vision for a sustainable future. And this leads us to the idea of the whole Earth. An Earth where taking care of the planet and our environment is a collective responsibility. This idea of stewardship. No longer I own this, so I take care of this, you own that, you take care of that. We're guardians of this land. We're guardians of what comes through us. We're stewarding our ideas. They don't belong to us. They belong to the higher cause. They belong to the unfolding of thriving for all life. And we are stewards, we get to guardian them. We get to bring them up like children until they get to be shared and spread across the world. This comes from a shared purpose and the common identity as Earth's custodians. When we open up, we no longer point fingers to say they're going to solve my problem for me, or the world is not going well because of them, or whatever. No, this is our common thing. We've got to figure it out together. There is no pointing fingers to anyone else. There is only joining hands with everyone else and going together. This can lead us to open and shared scientific research, big data analysis of the best practices all around the world, matching what's worked in one place to another place. We can grow much faster now because of technology. Any solution that's found to any problem can be instantly adapted and matched to another place. So the technology is not something to be scared of either. It's something which can allow us to advance even more coherently and even faster towards the realization of a whole and open Earth. And through this consciousness, the protection of biodiversity, the restoration of ecosystems, the real genuine care about our planet becomes of primary importance because it's our common responsibility, it's our inheritance, and it's what we're giving to our children. It's no longer, again, pointing to someone else to take care of it or to follow the rules. It's taking action on an individual basis. And at scale, that will actually work. Because we have the power to create new paradigms that enable global flourishing, sustainability, and collective well-being. So let's talk about the challenge. Because we've got to be really honest and upfront about the situation that we're in the world. It's a reinforcing loop, so wherever you start from, it always ends up with the same reality. If we look at a basic level, we have the unsafe environments. Because we're born into families where, culturally speaking, there's tension and unsafety about a whole variety of topics. I don't need to go too deep into it, you all understand what I'm talking about. But then that continues when you go to school, when you're walking in most countries, when you're walking in the street, you're taught already that there's unsafety and you need to be careful about this, this, and this. And if you don't perform well, then this will happen, right? And if you don't fit in, then this will happen. So the unsafety exists on so many levels. It creates a lot of closeness. It creates not asking questions and not wanting to work together because you don't know if you can trust the other person. So the unsafe environment is what induces these survival-driven, selfish behaviors. In the manifesto, it's demystified this idea that humans are inherently selfish beings and nothing's ever going to change. That's a narrative, what can be called a cultural meme, an idea that is quite toxic, and it's not true. There is an aspect of humans which act selfishly and have survival-driven behaviors, as there is an aspect of all life that acts in that way. And yet without humans, life on the planet would be healthy, thriving, and flourishing, despite that survivalistic aspect. So it's not the defining characteristic that is just because of that things are going wrong. The selfish-driven behaviors are because we're brought up in environments that make us feel like we have to survive. And when that happens, inevitably, a scarcity mindset develops. There's not enough for everyone, so I have to take what I can for myself. Or in business, right? And this comes to the competitive systems. If we don't dominate the market as much as possible, then we won't be able to field our people and our employees. We won't be able to field ourselves. So we need to take as much market share as possible from anyone else at all costs. That's a competitive behavior that's coming from scarcity, this idea of not enough, that originates within each human that's part of that grid at all levels in this grid, this global reality of unsafe environments that brings out the need to survive. And all of that creates the fear of change. Someone tries to speak up and say, hey, why don't we do something differently? Or why don't we work together? Imagine you do that, you're in a big organization. You say, why don't we work with our competition instead of try to fight them all the time? What's going to happen? Yeah, that person's going to get shut down immediately because they go against what that system is creating. So that system is self-enforcing itself at all levels, in schools, in families, in societies, at all levels, it's self-enforcing the same idea. So that fear of change is what reinforces the unsafe environments. So as you can see on the board, in the slides, this is a self-fulfilling loop. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way. And unless we break from this in some way, it's going to keep fulfilling itself. Acceptance of our current reality is the first step towards transformation. When we accept from whatever place of the cycle we can accept, and we can say, okay, this is the reality that the world has created. It's accidentally trapped itself into despair. Oops. Okay. Let's accept that. Let's not resist it. Let's not try and fight it and change it. Let's just accept. That's where it's got to. Because from that place of acceptance comes the genuine and real possibility to create new solutions and to think outside of the box. And as a big inspiration of mine said, Buckminster Fuller, some of you may be familiar, to change things in the world, you never fight the existing system. To really create lasting change in the world, you have to create new solutions that are so compelling, that are so much better than the old system, that they make it obsolete. They make it obvious that why would you engage in that old thing if you can engage over here and feel much better and contribute to a healthy and thriving world. So I want to bring us through a model that was developed by a German scientist called Thomas Kuhn about paradigm shifts. Because sometimes people forget that changing society is actually already happening. society is always in a transformation. And this is a scientifically studied phenomenon called paradigm shift by Thomas Kuhn. It was in the 50s, 60s, and has grown now into this model, which is the societal paradigm shift model. So the model says that we start in normal life. Everything looks kind of normal. Da 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 da. Yeah, you're doing that, I'm doing that. Okay, I'm not going to question. Everything is stable. Usually that doesn't last very long, right? Nature doesn't like things to just remain as they are and stable. Something has to continuously grow. So from normal life, certain assumptions that we've made about our reality, whether that's about the political system, about the way we drive, about ourselves and each other, about the way of taking resources from the environment, whatever it is, there starts to be something called model drift. And it's like, maybe what we thought was the way about the world is not really the best way. For example, maybe extracting all of the resources to funnel absolutely the most growth possible on the planet to reach the furthest epitome of human civilization is maybe not actually going to get us to where we think it's going to get us. And then the model starts to drift enough that it becomes obvious to so many people that maybe that's not the right way, that we fall into a model crisis. And this is a little bit on a societal scale where we are now. It's become obvious to the world that what we're doing is not working and it's not going to get us to a very good place if we keep going that way. Welcome.
Hello. Sorry.
Are you bringing in your way?
Do you want to sit down? Good to see you, man. Hey, brother. Glad you like it, brother. Thank you. So people realize the model that we're operating on as a society is not working. And then we reach the model crisis, where it becomes so obvious that the current way is not going to bring us the solutions. And that the way we thought we were going as a society is not a good idea anymore. It becomes really obvious, right? I think the majority of the planet now finds it obvious, but the majority of the planet is also in paralysis over what to do about that. And none of the mainstream solutions really seem to be adequate or reasonable to actually reach something else. So the next part of Thomas Kuhn's model that he developed is that there's a model revolution. And this we've seen many times in fields of science where, for example, a new idea comes and then first people are like, no, that's not right. Like, you know, for example, the Earth going around the sun versus the sun around the Earth, get into trouble for thinking that at a certain period of human society. But at some point, there's enough evidence that even those who would get you into trouble have to say, all right, maybe we'll have to change the common ideas. And there's a revolution. What does that mean? We all shift and start to change the force from that's how it used to be into this is the new way that it can be. But it's a very unstable time when there's revolution. It's a dissolution of egos. It's a dissolution of what we thought was the way. And it's a facing with the truth. All revolutions have shown that. And in this case, the revolution doesn't have to mean that there's going to be people on the street fighting for revolution. Might mean that, but doesn't have to mean that. It just means that everything we thought we knew is going to be shaken up, and already is. And it's only going to get more. As I said, now we're at this stage, going into this stage. And at some point, the new model that has arrived of what we're creating as a global society, what the common set of values and beliefs about the world and the direction and why we're here and what we're creating, all of that, once that's arrived and fully been integrated and all those who are resisting it have been shaken out by the revolution, then you have the paradigm change. And the society shifts into a new way of thinking. This has happened before. This is not the first time. The Italian Renaissance is one example of this, where there was a complete shift of society, even perception of life, perception of depth, way of understanding consciousness. It all changed over a couple of 100 years. A very surprising short amount of time. But now it's going to be even stronger, because now the shift that we're going through is not isolated just to some societies. It's a global transformation into a new paradigm. And until we're there, as we said before, who's to say exactly where we're going to land? But one thing's for sure, is this is a basic cycle of life, a basic cycle of nature, and the paradigm will shift. So I went ahead and added a layer to this model that shows what the counterculture or the emergent new paradigm culture is doing in parallel to the rest of the world, while the rest of the world goes through their gentle transition of times. Or not so gentle, depending on what stage of the transition. You have the normal life. Well, some of us in society, while everyone's just living their normal life, la-di-da-di-da, like, maybe there could be another, even better way to live. What would that look like? Those are the evolved perceptions. And those evolved perceptions are that openness that we talked about. The openness to think different. The openness to discover new things. So they lead to early discoveries. And actually, the early discoveries of something else that could be even more coherent in the manifestation of life into this realm, there could be an even next step of evolution. Those early discoveries on the metaphysical level and on the subtle level are actually what creates the polarity with the current model and starts to create the drift and starts to enable people to see a different reality, to see that something else is happening. But as we said earlier, at this stage, it's not yet common knowledge. It's glitches in the matrix, things starting to not add up. And then there's some scientists over here that are like, well, we know why it's not adding up. Wait till you find out. And that leads us to robust new discoveries when there's solid science, solid proof of a different type of way, of different civilizations. So if we look at now on this global movement around the planet, we have communities popping up all around the world. We have new technologies. To some extent, they're still transitioning from early stage to robust. And when they truly become robust, and it's like, here's the obvious value that's being created in these online networks. Here's the obvious higher, more flourishing, thriving reality that's happening in these different society models. At that stage, the progression truly into the revolution of the cycle is able to take place. So what this model actually shows us is that, as we said earlier, there's no rush, in a sense, to get anywhere. Yes, we don't want to stay much longer in the current distorted reality, but only when the alchemy of the solutions has truly become available to shift the paradigm, only when the flame holders have developed it to the level where it's needed, will that revolution be initiated so that that transfer of energy in the human system of paradigms can actually shift from the old system into the new. Life doesn't evolve and propose the next evolutionary step unless the energy from the previous step is able to integrate and expand into it. Life is very intelligent in the way it unfolds. So it's actually our discoveries, it's our innovations, it's our stepping out of the system and creating the new solutions, which are even going to enable that unfolding to take place. There's still going to be the revolution. And at some point, the new discoveries become the established norms. And eventually, those get fully accepted as the paradigm shifts to the next more expanded view of reality. So the solution to that problem we looked at before of the scarcity-based society that reperpetuates itself in scarcity is the open philosophy. It's to get out of all of that constriction of me versus you, not enough, I'm not safe, so I need to save myself before you. All of that repeating loop. And to get into philosophy saying, actually, you got something to bring to the table. You've got some cards. I've got some cards. They've got some cards. We have a simple value set, openness, transparency, working together, right? And so on. And from that, it instills an abundance mindset. It instills the possibility that new things can happen, that new outcomes can be realized. So that abundance mindset enables thriving outcomes. Because when we come together and create new solutions, put the cards on the table, then suddenly there are new innovations. There are new outcomes that address not just our problems, but the problems of the world at large. It doesn't take everyone choosing an open philosophy to successfully transition the world into an open earth. It only takes enough people to come together and to find the solutions that can integrate in the old system, like Trojan horses, and unfold from within an open earth. This is a common misconception. We don't have to all change our mind. Just those who are ready to unite, let's join hands, let's find the solutions, let's unfold them and support all the others who don't know yet that something better is possible. So that thriving outcome fosters the creation of regenerative societies. Those individual innovations combine the different scales of society and human civilization to create thriving across many levels. Some people call them light cities, some people will call them eco-villages. There's many forms and ways to see it, even integrating in existing cities and bringing new waves of consciousness all around the world. Regenerative societies are possible, they are here, they are being developed, and they are integrating around the world. And those societies induce safe and nurturing environments, which themselves allow the abundance mindset. So to get out of that trap, right, to get out of this fear of change or unsafe environments, creating survival-driven behavior, creating a scarcity mindset, creating a competitive system, instilling the fear of change and repeating itself, we accept that that's the world as it is. We come together with all those who are accepting that we can create something much better. And by coming together with an open philosophy, an abundance mindset, we create thriving outcomes that birth regenerative societies that themselves allow safe and nurturing environments and that create a new reality. Once this loop is completed, and it's already been completed in some micro-communities around the world, but once it gets grown and expanded all around the world, then the environment is safe to start off with. And the next generations, whether those are new people coming in from the outside and learning that way and being in that safe environment, or newborns that have never known anything different, are now immersed 2 feet into the new grid of openness, of coming together, of collaborating. So to create this open earth is being birthed a foundation. We call it the Open Systems Foundation. Now, the open earth that we've talked about extensively in this presentation is an idea that belongs to nobody, and it belongs to everybody. The idea that we can come together and collaborate and create a thriving society. Out of that idea that is presented in the manifesto is born the Open Systems Foundation, that is a specific group that's being set up as a Swiss-based philanthropic foundation that is stewarding the open earth systems and helping to create systems to share with the whole world to enter an open earth. So this foundation develops open earth systems and is a vehicle that can receive philanthropic donations without agenda, without lobbying, only with the intention of creating an open earth, and strategically diffuse them to the right projects, the right initiatives, the right sustainable groups around the world to help infuse this growing consciousness of openness all around the world. So when we have the paradigm shift model, we can see it in this way, which is that this is the old cycle. And as the model starts to drift, as we said, there's this parallel early discovery. As the model starts to be in crisis, there's parallel robust new discoveries. The Open Systems Foundation is here to bring the open earth philosophy into action. And it's here to support those discoveries. It's here to support funding all the projects which are in that direction, or all the ones which qualify for that funding, that are serious and that can actually create a change. And it's here to create a bridge so that as the model is in crisis, we can introduce and transition into a different grid, a different reality, which is the open earth. So the Open Systems Foundation has both in-house things that it's developing, and for those of you who have known me for many years, we've already been working on for many years, and we're going to talk about some of those in a moment. And it also funds key areas which support the general unfolding of an open earth, such as open earth digital platforms, which are tools that allow us to collaborate at scale globally, matchmake solutions from one community to another, from one group to another, share science, develop off of each other, connect with like-minded people, find our tribe, leverage the best of AI for human flourishing. These are already being developed, and even our good friend Sonny, who just arrived, is also part of this mission and developing solutions for digitally connecting people all around the world. So, as much as these three areas that I'm diving into now are areas of funding of the Open Systems Foundation, they are also areas in the collective consciousness that many have realized are important key acupuncture points, key cogs in the new system, that once we activate them fully, can really accelerate the shift rapidly and connect everyone around the world to make the change happen quickly. So on top of the platforms, we have open earth innovation environments. This is a general word to describe all physical locations, such as an eco-village, a light city, and we're going to talk about some after, that anchor in the open earth and innovate to find the solutions that will be shared globally for everyone to benefit. And wherever you are in the world, you can tap into the solutions that any other innovation environment has generated and apply it and grow much faster than if you had to figure out for yourself. The third area of funding is the Open Earth Sovereign Wealth Funds. Pretty much every country in the world has a sovereign wealth fund. And what this is a group which will steward assets of the country, normally in the world design system, on behalf of the country to support its growth and its ongoing prosperity. Now, we all know that some of the motives behind some of these countries and the wealth funds are not always the cleanest. It's okay, again, we accept them as it is. In this case, the Open Earth Sovereign Wealth Fund is about shifting from dependence on receiving donations by those who believe in an open earth into having a self-generated source of capital and cash flow that is growing and that is intelligently being allocated through peer-to-peer mechanisms, not a few people deciding everything, to the growing web of interconnected projects all around the planet that are part of the same unified vision of an open earth. So we're going to talk about the flagship projects that we have in each of these three categories that we've already been working on in parallel. So these projects are not per se in the Open Systems Foundation. More so, the Open Systems Foundation is now being set up to come in as a landing pad, a vehicle to receive funding, and to funnel intelligently to all sorts of projects. But we have 3 flagship ones that we believe support the sharing of the vision for that area, support the realization of an open earth in each of these 3 areas. So, as we said, open earth digital platforms. Last year in October, we launched the first MVP of a platform called Weave. It's available now on the internet. It's still an early stage project, but it's an infrastructure designed to interconnect efforts from all around the world into a global grid. How can we come together for those who have already realized that this is the right way to work together for better outcomes and manifest more beautiful realities? So I'm not going to dive into it too much now. With the funneling of new funding, financing, it's going to grow to become what it truly can be. At this stage, it's mostly a platform for sharing courses. We have the Paradise of Social Culture course that Tia and I co-created last year on there, how to co-create in harmony based on higher consciousness culture. It has other resources, it has groups, and some early stage community networking. Open Earth innovation environments. Many of us here in the room are actually here because we first heard about Flora. So Flora, which is the Flourishing Life Oasis for Wellbeing Research and Action, is a flagship innovation environment. So when I use that word flagship, what I mean is if we imagine the fullest manifestation of what it could be like to live in a higher consciousness, open, healthy and thriving society at all scales of the society, that's what Flora stands for. It's a living lab, research and development project. It's where people who are in it are part of an experiment and pioneering the solutions for an open and connected world. Now, the Open Systems Foundation is going to be supporting multiple projects around the world who are innovating solutions. Flora is a little bit different in that even though most of those projects are openly accepting traffic from all around the world of people coming in, learning, taking the course, getting the qualification, learning permaculture, learning governance, learning conscious living, all of these things which are very important. And by the way, we're anchoring one of these innovation environments here, literally in this land where this house is based, not this house specifically, but a good brother has started an innovation environment nearby and is growing into being one of these innovation environments, which will be just that, where people can come, can learn, can be part of innovation programs. Flora is a little bit different in that it's already placing itself 3 steps further in the loop. It's already creating the safe environment on all levels of society. And so to actually be in Flora requires a different, let's say, pre-qualified level of new paradigm living. So these other innovation environments, like the one we're creating here in Tambak Sering, are the gateways for people to gain the badges, the qualifications, to be able to safely immerse themselves in an environment where they're not going to go and project all of their old stuff and their old ideals and their old stuff onto people who are already trying to mastermind fully this new paradigm society. So it's really hard to put into words what that will look like, but you can imagine if you're surrounded by people who are already on the level fully and are fully dedicated to the mission and are living and flourishing without even monetary systems, because that's been transcended, without all of the old systems, but in full realization of the new systems, that's what Flora is about. We have a brochure about it, and one day we will be holding a presentation just on this topic of this society. We've identified land on another island of Indonesia, and we're moving forward with putting together the pieces, which led us to setting up the Open System Foundation and the Open Earth. Because all of these projects, they need a place to land fully into this realm. And if you're going to go and raise a lot of money to realize an amazing research and development environment, then you need a place for the money to actually come in that has a coherent story of how that environment is contributing to a broader cause. So the Open Earth is that broader philosophy. The Open Systems Foundation is the landing pad. And in this case, Flora is one of the new paradigm environments that allow the higher consciousness to be birthed and breathed through into this realm. And when solutions are found, as we said, they're shared openly to all others all around the world based on the Open Earth philosophy. So the third and final category is the Open Earth Sovereign Wealth Fund. And here we have the Bridge Trust that is also still in setup and consolidation phase. But throughout the last few years, myself and some of my colleagues have been working on self-sustaining systems for monetary generation. What does that look like? Algorithmic trading bots, understanding the markets, shifting wealth from the old paradigm to the new, where it's not actually leaving one person's hand and being taken out, but where it's just playing the games of the old system to bring the wealth out of the old paradigm into the sovereign wealth fund, generates more money, even though we know money is an illusion. We know it's not going to last that long. We're not at all attached to it. But in this current day and age, it holds a place in helping move things in the world. It holds a place in transitioning into resources. So the whole point of the Bridge Trust is to transition as much money as possible from the old paradigm, bridging it into resources, into land, into projects, into tangible things that will keep being highly valuable even if the monetary systems of the world collapse. And then to unify all of the people all around the world that are sharing this vision of an open earth, that are saying, yes, I want to contribute, how can I contribute? We have the Open Earth Network. So this is a non-demanding network. It's basically, do you believe that we can collaborate and create an open earth? Yes, great, join the network. And that network will eventually be represented in Weave on the digital platform, will enable all those who have the solutions, the technologies, the expertise, the know-how, also to come together, to be connected in the right projects, to solve the right challenges. It's the global community. It's all those who believe in the mission and the vision of an open earth. It operates as what's called an open value network, an OVN. And an open value network is basically a space where if you want to bring value to the network, you can, and then you can benefit from the value that you're bringing and from the value of the whole network. And if you don't want to bring value to the network, that's okay also. It's open. Those who want to bring value do, and then the network grows and increases in value. This is a concept that has been developed in peer-to-peer thinking and peer-to-peer examples of organizations all around the world that are operating as OVNs and grow something without needing to be centralized, with everyone who aligns with the same vision can come and contribute the pieces they have, and together we can make it happen. So this is enabling collaboration for projects at all scales of society, and it allows us to unite as the tangible people coming together in a network for a common cause. So this is our time. This is the time. I mean, it's always been the time, but now it's really the time, right? And now it's the time to come together. We all have so many projects, and they're all contributing towards the creation of an open earth. As we said, the open earth just aims to be a broadly defined shared direction that we can all subscribe to. So let's come together. Let's come together as an open earth network, seeing who's in the ecosystem, who's doing what, who's got what piece of the puzzle. Let's put the cards on the table and figure out how we can make it happen. And it's also the time to leverage the huge power of those who know that we can create a better world, who have the capital and who are willing to philanthropically bring it to a group of stewards who can help direct it in the right direction for making and creating an open earth. So this is also a time to create the Open Systems Foundation. And through the Open Earth Network and the Open Systems Foundation, we will co-create, and we are co-creating already. Before the Open Earth became tangibilized into a manifesto, before any of this was born, we were already doing it. And now we have a unifying container that can allow us to do it with awareness and do it together. This is our time. Because the future is open. So let's build it together. Thank you.